I am excited to be here today with Akhil Aiyar, a market analyst with Innova Market Insights, and Katharina Machner, a product and packaging designer with Wipak. So we're here today to discuss how Wipak is keeping up with these trends as a sustainable packaging producer for primarily food products. And we will be talking about nutrition hacking, being beautiful inside out.
Thank you so much, Liberty, for that introduction. My name is Akhil Aiyar. I am a market analyst at Innova Market Insights, and I've been working at Innova for the past 3 years now.
Yeah, my name is Katharina Machner, and I'm a product and packaging designer, looking at new packaging designs, creating them, but also I support customers when they want to, when they ask for sustainable packaging solutions, for more innovative packaging solutions, and I am also holding workshops and so on.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about the trend? Akhil.
When we look at the nutrition hacking trend in general, it's an overarching trend that basically has three facets. So the first facet is that which you mentioned, which was covered through our trend Eat Pretty. We were basically addressing how there's been a consumer shift towards food and beverages that feature ingredients that have benefits for their physical appearance. Now, a lot of these products are mostly found in categories such as sports powders or baby formula, teas, and juices and nectars. The second aspect of this trend focuses more on personalized nutrition and is addressed to the tailored to fit trend that we have this year. We find that consumers nowadays are increasingly looking for ways to find products and to tailor their life to their individual lifestyles and beliefs. And the vegan trend is a very good example of this. But now we see it diversifying to other categories and also including more indulgent flavor options. And finally, the third facet of the trend would be looking at ingredients that boost immunity. And this has been really brought to the forefront with the COVID-19 pandemic. When we asked consumers whether their concerns regarding immune health changed at all, nearly a third of global consumers said that their concerns regarding immune health have increased between 2019 and 2020. There was a huge boom in the use of turmeric and ginger. Everything has vitamin C. People are claiming that a lot more because that provides immune support. And in terms of use of colors and hues, we see a lot more yellow and orange hues being used to communicate the fact that it has citrus ingredients and it's good for your immunity. It also links a bit back to one of the trends that we had last year, which is storytelling. So packaging is a canvas. So it's your communication tool with the consumers, and how you go about presenting details, how you design the packaging, whether the claims are, the claims that you want consumers to see are really on the front of pack and visible. And, there's so many different ways in which packaging plays a very important role in the consumer purchasing decision. And the most important role is obviously when there's a new product launch, it has to stand out on the shelf. So we see that also with sustainability. Like everyone cares about sustainability, but how much are people actually willing to pay for something that is more sustainable and to stick with that choice, not just do it like the first time? So I think there has got to be synergy between the product and the packaging. But people are realizing now with the pandemic that, okay, you need plastic. It's just a matter of consumer education regarding disposing it and making sure we have like enough infrastructure to make sure that we have a circular economy that doesn't end up in landfill. We are able to reuse as much as possible. So I think that is quite important.
Great, thank you. So then in which case, what kinds of design options would you have to think about when you're designing a product like this?
First of all, I totally agree with that. I think packaging can influence how the consumer sees a product, but also transports even more. It's not only about the product or the consumer, but it's also talking about a brand and an image and the values that this brand has to communicate into the market and to the end consumers. Packaging works as, let me call it, a silent representative in the market. When we design packaging, we need to focus on the end consumer's needs. We have to focus on the target. When we think about luxury, we often think about high quality material and that is way thicker than a standard material. Also, we have to think about how much amount of product is there within the packaging. Smaller portions often provide the impression of a rare treasure that the end consumer is holding in their hands. Maybe we have to add an effect lacquer like a matte or a haptic lacquer onto the packaging. where do we apply it? How does the end consumer interact with the packaging? So this effect lacquer highlights the most important claims or supports the synergy between the product and the packaging. And also, of course, we can have a look or a closer look on features like opening and reclosability. We have to figure out how the end consumer interacts with the packaging. Even sustainable materials, as we as Wipak supply, have a wide range of available options. It's mostly about answering questions and giving a perfect solution for different requirements that supports the end consumer's desire within format, within shape, opening, reclose function, within the material, the haptic, the feel and the look of the packaging material, and sometimes also the visuals. So this is very essential for this.
Fantastic, thank you. I think you really recapped it well there, which is that there's just so many elements to consider as a packaging designer, which comes down to asking the right questions.
Exactly.
What are the challenges or contradictions in this consumer desire? What makes it difficult, perhaps, for you to produce packaging which is particularly considerate of the environment?
I think one of the biggest challenges is the material. Often we imagine luxury products to be packed in a thicker material, and that is not always the most sustainable solution. And often luxury products are also overpacked. So there's so much material around the packaging or the amount of product that this might, of course, give away the air of luxury, but it also can create the feeling of buying air. Sometimes those luxury products are not optimized for transportation. It's a big packaging. It's not stackable in a good way on the pallet. You get a lesser amount of products and packagings on one pallet, and then maybe you don't have just one truck load for a supermarket, but you have to have 2 truckloads. And that has a big impact on our carbon emissions for the product itself.
So I can see that there's a lot that goes into the technical side of your design, not just the appearance, right? And all of that really comes down to, when you're considering sustainability, it comes down to the carbon footprint of that packaging in its entire life cycle.
Exactly. Our first goal should always be to ensure the safety of the product. So that means we have to focus on topics like barrier properties or puncture resistance or ensuring a long shelf life. But the end consumer also expects a secure packaging. So when it comes to packaging design, for me, it's very important to focus on a basic principle. As little as possible, as much as necessary. You should only use as much as material as it really needs to communicate your values and ensure the product safety. High quality doesn't have to mean thicker or worse for the environment, because there are sustainable solutions to go for. And another big topic is, of course, fighting food waste. So how much of the product should a package contain? Modern techniques such as Digimark enable the packaging to be even more sustainable. When it comes to correct recycling or the right application, how to use the product or gives additional benefits. You see, I can't just give a short answer because there's so much.
No, that was very thorough. And I think you touched on several points that actually Akhil brought up as well. Digimark and recyclability and this holistic approach to designing packaging, which is both good for the environment, but also remains within the supply chain, right?
Yeah. To a couple of points that Katharina made, especially with regards to food waste. Everyone always has one question: what is the most sustainable packaging? And in my opinion, the answer is there is no one size fits all approach for it. And you have to look at the product. Like depending upon the product, different types of materials might be more sustainable options. And then you have to look at logistics. So stackability, the carbon emissions are associated with transportation. For example, pouches versus glass, not just from a logistic standpoint up until it gets the consumer. It's also about like after you have to recycle the waste, like the amount of space that glass takes up. Compare that to pouches, because after pouches are done, they can just be flat as an envelope. Like a couple of years back, especially with what I like to call the blue planet effect. After all of that came into the limelight, people were really, everyone had an aversion to plastic. I think with certain things, it's good that we came up with alternatives, like for single-use plastics. When it comes purely to a barrier standpoint, when you start looking at moisture barrier and aroma barrier and stuff like that, plastic does perform much better, and we can't directly shift to paper as everyone wants that. Okay, you just have paper, but then ultimately it doesn't provide the same barrier properties. People always look at the sustainability of the packaging. No one ever looks at the sustainability of the food as much, or communicate so much about that on the product and packaging as a whole.
We have to focus on the whole value chain and the whole production chain when we talk about sustainability. And that's very important because we as companies do take responsibility for the environment, for our social environment. And therefore, it is crucial to really have a holistic approach on that. And just as you said, of course, paper is not always the answer, or having a paper share or something. But I think it's very important to look at these renewable, more renewable packaging solutions when it's needed. So this is also something that most end consumers, due to the transparency trends, wants to know.
There's really so much to consider here, right, when it comes to the environment, but also coming back to the trend of having that air of luxury and elegance as well when it comes to many of these types of products. I know you already touched on recyclable and renewable bio-based materials. What do you think can really give off that same air of luxury and beauty while remaining renewable or recyclable or as sustainable as possible right now?
I think there's not one approach that fits everything. Just as we did within our solution for the German Packaging Award. Now I have the words. So there we combined a totally unprinted mono PE solution film with a paper banderole. And that's also a very good approach, I think, because you can really easy separate those two materials from each other. Mono PE is considered recyclable in most countries. So there is a stream existing for this. And then you also have the paper banderole, which is printed maybe with water-based inks that makes it even more sustainable. And then the end consumer can really interact with the packaging. But when we just look at the sustainable approach on this, it is very good that we have materials that are optimized for recycling and that are easy to separate. Yeah, we could even consider going from more rigid solutions into more flexible solutions to reduce packaging material, the carbon footprint, and also the weight for transportation and so on. Also, just looking at mono PE and mono PP printed is also a very interesting solution. And if you say, well, if you do something about sustainability, that's, I think, the most important thing. You have to communicate it. We should be investing into more sustainable solutions in the future. And those can definitely supply the same air of luxury when it comes to this specific trend as standard products.
You've touched on so many very important points. We need to think about transparency and we need to think about communication, right? Communicating what we're doing, why we're doing it. Just like we tell them the nutritional value of their food, we should tell them the carbon footprint of their packaging so that they understand what they are consuming.
If the product inside really makes the end consumer more beautiful from the inside out, why not having a packaging that takes responsibility and is doing the same for the planet?
Our customers and potential customers know that that's something we are considering and it's very important, which is not just how pretty the packaging is or how, honestly, not just how sustainable it is, but how those things all work together with the product and the brand specifically, that we as, or Katharina, for you and your team as designers, that you design something that really reflects the brand and the brand's values, as well as our own values as a sustainable, flexible packaging company.
It's a wide field and it would be so perfect if we could just focus on having a pretty packaging and a sustainable packaging. That would make it so much more easy for everyone. But that's not all that we should really take in consideration. Getting all the insights on communication, format, trends, shapes, materials, of course, barrier property, and so on and so on. So it's very complex in the end.
Thank you both for trying to explain this to our audience and to myself as well, for casting a light on what consumers are looking for and how we can address these needs and strive to be more sustainable.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.